I was younger, it's mostly white and like a few Asians. And then I went to Blackwell Elementary School. I know some friends who go to like Franklin High School and stuff. They have a lot more diversity than we do here. There's a lot more diversity there just because of location and stuff. But our school is totally different just because of, I mean, it's private, so. But I definitely think private schools are more rigorous, especially because what I hear from my friends from public school is like they don't even write more than 2 pages every 2 weeks. Or if I told them I look like a 15-page research paper, they'll say, "How did you write more than like 3 pages?" So we're more prepared, I think. Like in public high school, there's not a lot of focus on each individual, but I think we learn a lot of the same things. It just depends on like who's teaching it. Like if I talk to my friends who are like freshmen now, they're like learning about things we like learned, but at a different time. Like they're reading Animal Farm now, whereas we read it in 8th grade. So we do the same things. It's just different times and different assignments on them. Like they don't have to write papers. Their homework is just to read, which is what makes us better prepared. But I think there are a lot of benefits going to public school, just because you have so many more opportunities. Like our school doesn't offer that many APs, but like there's all different kinds of APs that none of us have the opportunity to take. But other schools have had them for a long time. Like there's the IB program at some schools. We don't have it, obviously. Also, you get to meet a lot more people. But at also the same time, like some classes in high school are 60 people. And people who aren't able to learn in those environments are at a disadvantage at public schools. And whereas here we may not have like football teams or pep rallies, but we get to connect with our teachers to understand things more thoroughly than like sitting in a 60-person classroom.
So I went to private school my whole life until Juanita. The only experience with public schools were in the movies. Oh, everyone has their own locker and you decorate it, and the football games, all that kind of stuff. So I thought that public school is going to be like that. In some ways, it is like that. In other ways, it's very different. Like, we do have the hierarchy with the top group and the popular people, and the top people knowing they're the popular people, but people are a lot nicer than in the movies. And because people come from a lot more different backgrounds, people are more accepting of different challenges that people face. In private schools, I feel like there is a lot more judgment around your kind of, basically how much money you have. Yeah, I could definitely see that when I went to private school. And since there's a smaller class size in private schools, there's a lot more judgment. So yeah. I was always told that private schools had a better education system than public schools. I thought there was going to be more drugs at public schools. But now, there's going to be drugs and alcohol in every school. Juanita is known as the weed school, and like L-Dub is known as the heroin school. I don't think that the education is worse, but we do have a lot of different options for college prep classes. I'm in Cambridge, there's AP classes, there's STEM. So yeah, you can take regular classes, and there are some weird people in those classes. And in terms of diversity, I think that public schools are a lot better. You can see different ethnicities, different family structures.
Why? It comes down to funding. I do see that, we can provide education to students that is probably different than another school. So what that means is greater engagement with faculty. And that's great with opportunity for students. But also there's a lot of good things that happen in public schools. Some of them can offer a variety of programs that we can't. And what happens here isn't really what happens. Here you have teachers who listen to what you have to say. You've got tons of opportunities that are readily available to you. So that's not really how things usually operate. So I think that when students get to college, they have this realization that, like, one, they're pretty well prepared for like the academic piece. But they also realize that, wow, I don't have that same access that I once had. Now, that's a generalization, and people experience college in a variety of ways, but it's true, and we are somewhat in a bubble. But I also feel like, okay, so you live in a bubble until you're like 17, and the rest of your life you're not going to be living in a bubble, and it's not such a bad thing. It might feel like a bubble, but on the other hand, better than never having that experience. I think that I'm a firm believer. I think that education provides opportunities that would not exist if a student didn't really have a good education. So if you can't work successfully with the group, if you can't analyze a problem and think like, what are the options in solving this? If you don't have those skills in place, then your ability to fully engage in the economy, then you are going to be severely limited.
I work in the biggest high school in the state of Washington, so there's lots of opportunities for students to have extracurricular activities or different educational opportunities. But nearby, we have a private school that has 250 students who doesn't have near the opportunities that we have. There's also an absolute difference in diversity in public schools compared to private schools in terms of racial and ethnic diversity. And I think that speaks to something about inequality in our society. I would also bet that if my parents were paying for me to go to a private school, that there would be more investment in my education than in a public school, where it's just given to you. Also, I believe that public schools prepare you for real diversity, at least for our area, for a very diverse community, to interact with a very diverse community. That's what our school looks like. It's a representation of our community. For private schools, I'm not sure. I also believe that education in the classroom is different from school to school based on teachers giving the curriculum. If teachers focus on the lesson and focus on the post-school readiness, I feel like kids get what they need to be successful, and it doesn't depend on the funding for different school districts. If teachers are lazy and do whatever they feel is necessary, then students don't get the rigorous course needed to succeed in life.
Honestly, it comes down to money. And typically, it's families with more money that can afford independent schools, and then with that comes more opportunities. But I think there are some things that, just by virtue of the population, that could be more authentic in public school. But by and large, the kids here have more opportunities. I just took my kids to the opera. I wouldn't have been able to do that in public schools. Those kids have those experiences that students in public schools wouldn't have been able to do. I think that every school has the option of teaching students what it wants to teach. And so I would say right now, when there's not a lot of socioeconomic class, when there's not a lot of variety, my students, I tell them my job is to prepare them for work and life. And so I do that to the best of my ability. When the learning environment is too homogeneous, it does them a disservice, because it doesn't prepare them for the real world. But on the other hand, you could say that it prepares us for the real world, because we live in a very segregated society. Yeah, if I were a poor kid, this is the last place I would want to be. My daughter went to Garfield. Even though it's very diverse, it's separated in terms of race. And so here, there is not enough diversity for someone to feel like they have a sense of community. I think things are a lot harsher in public schools. And when I taught in public school, the things that my 7th graders were doing and thinking about is very different from my current 7th graders at this independent school. In general, I would say that independent schools are a lot more sheltered. Here they'll give you a nasty look and they'll be bullying you. And then I think, it's nothing compared to what public schoolers have to go through. I think that not having grit, if things aren't hard for you, then you won't be prepared to face obstacles in the future.